This week, we shine the spotlight on a dynamic business leader in the travel industry who sits at the helm of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, tour and travel agencies in the country. Sit back as we unfold the life of Miss Aileen Clemente, who is the president of Rajah Travel Corporation.
The Clemente family has been synonyms with travel in the Philippines for decades. This generation's Aileen Clemente, who heads Rajah Travel Corporation, talked about her parents, their roots, and how they revolutionized the domestic travel industry.
The Clemente family is from Bulacan, and my mother, though she's from Pangasinan, came also from Bulacan. The family is also from Bulacan. Both of them studied law, but my father went straight to work for then Senator Almendras, and then was appointed directly by President Marcos as a director of tourism. So at the time it was still a bureau, and then it became a ministry. So he was the only one directly appointed by the president into a director position. My mother also worked then at the Bureau of Tourism, and then when it became a ministry, she was the chief of licensing. So they met in the Ministry of Tourism then. So when they got married, so to avoid conflict of interest, my father removed my mother from the job, and then she set up the company actually.
There are 4 children in the family, 2 boys and 2 girls, and Aileen is the youngest. After her mother, Dading Clemente, set up Rajah, the mother company, her father eventually left government service and joined her mother to successfully run the company. She tells us more about her early education.
Actually, I'm from Poveda. But somewhere in the middle, my father suffered a stroke, so I was forced to study in the US mid-grade school, and then came back to Poveda again, and then went to UP, business economics. And then my father again had his ailment, and I had to move again to the US. And then I finished in St. Mary's, double major, business administration and economics.
After her dad's first stroke, the whole family left for the U.S. The second time her father fell ill, only Aileen was brought along to the U.S. Her exposure and education there gave another dimension to her formation, honing her leadership qualities.
I was taught to always do your best in whatever you do. Spell the difference was a major mantra taught to me by our principal then in high school. So just spell the difference in whatever you do. So what I did was try to be the best at everything I can. So if you look at the yearbook, I'm actually a member of most of the different organizations. And even, so from extremes like even the drama club, to the glee club, to the varsity team, volleyball, ganyan, until I became the captain. And then after I graduated, I even coached them for a year.
Rajah Tours Philippines is actually the mother company, set up at the time when then-President Ferdinand Marcos wanted to promote the country as a premier destination in Southeast Asia, and the young Aileen was exposed to the fledgling industry and immersed herself through the ensuing years.
It was a very active time that we would be exposed to the different tourists on a almost 24/7 basis. When we have dinners or lunches, there would be discussion about tourism. Some parties would be held in our house, and we would play the piano and other things. So Saturdays or Sundays after church, then we would go to the office because there would be a big group arrival coming. So it's a full-on exposure to different kinds of people.
Aileen talked about the time when the family owned and ran a hotel in Baguio before that big earthquake that virtually demolished the city of Pines. It was called the Baguio Royal Run. During summers, the young Aileen would work in the hotel.
Actually, I was paid 10 pesos a day, and a mashed potato in Pancake House was 6 pesos, so I saved 4 pesos. So, I mean, that kind of thing. But, it was not about the money. It was just experiencing work.
Very early on, Aileen valued work because she saw it firsthand from her hardworking mom.
She's also a workaholic. She can't stay home. She knows also that she has a lot to offer the industry. So she came to find herself a budget of 10,000 pesos. And somebody said, I'll put up the other 10,000 pesos so you can start your travel company. So she started it with 20,000 pesos.
Aileen, the youngest child, actually joined the mother company in 1997 and only moved to Rajah Travel Corporation in 2000.
The mother company exists mostly as inbound. This now caters to inbound, outbound, and the different niches, meetings and events, corporate travel, leisure travel, which is the most common, energy, resources, and marine, which not a lot of people understand, and so on and so forth. But
in recent years, with the rapid digitalization of all the industries, travel included, times have been more than challenging for the travel industry. Online booking caught up with everyone, and the smaller travel agencies started folding up. Aileen knew that they had to innovate and evolve, and they did. Rajah Travel is not just a travel agency which is mostly to ticketing and creating tour packages. Rajah Travel is more than that. They have evolved into a travel service provider.
we are actually both online and offline. We also cater to the different types of businesses. So corporate travel is more travel management of a program of a corporation, and so on. So very different business model altogether.
And so Aileen looks beyond her company, seeing the bigger picture and realizing her company goals in the process.
Our goal is industry growth. It's not just our company's growth. That's the first one. So we have to be dynamic enough to be able to move with the industry and even pull the industry to move faster than how it's moving right now. So we really care about that. Second is, our goal is not just about profit. If it was about that, I could have sold this a long time ago. This is about stewardship. Most of our employees are first, second generation, family members, kabarangay, friends of friends. So, it's familial. It's very familial. It keeps the corporate structure, but it's very familial.
There are some 250 employees in the company. Aileen was dynamic enough to hire not just full-time employees, but also part-time and work-from-home people who can earn while staying home. At present, Rajah maintains 2 main offices, although they have what Aileen calls implant offices because some big corporate clients ask for it. This lady boss clearly takes after her mother. She is no slacker, and she believes the industry cannot afford to bide its time in this age of technology.
Whether it's before or now, I really still believe that we can move faster. In fact, that's why we have contributed a lot to the lobbying of the Tourism Act 95-93. But the implementation still has to be monitored, and we have to be very steadfast in ensuring that it responds to the times and to the stakeholders.
To some, she may seem to be impatient, a person in a hurry, but to this achiever, there was no time to waste. There was a need to realign the focus, and the time is now.
If there was a telescope, you need to have a focus on, you have to move the lens a little bit more because it's focusing too much on marketing, without looking at products, without really putting the relational statistics behind what you need to develop. It has to move to more long-term goals. In fact, all of our neighbors, for example, they're building infrastructure now that's for 2030 to 2050. We're just looking at our vision up to 2025 at most. So again, it's an adjustment of the lenses and the scope.
All major stakeholders in a travel agency need to maintain affiliation both here and abroad. And Rajah Tours, according to Aileen, has the most affiliations in national and international organizations in the industry. They are affiliated with virtually all of the chambers of industry, whether domestic or foreign, and of course with IATA, among others.
If you're an IATA, then you went through the rigors of the standards, and then of course the national associations like PTAA, PhilToa. We're also the only member in the Philippines of the World Travel and Tourism Council. It's the counterpart of the UNWTO in that sense, just to simplify the explanation. We are also members of ASTA, the American Society of Travel Agencies. And then we have our accreditations with the different embassies, and specifically for Japan and Singapore, we're one of the few that are allowed to process.
As Aileen mentioned earlier, they can do online or offline bookings, and they have their own web portals and the mobile apps for them. The company continues to innovate and adjust to changing time.
For corporate, it's more of a consultancy service, again, to manage the travel policy of a company. Energy, resource, and marine, so mostly the energy companies have different travel arrangements that are necessary, so we cater to that as well. Meetings and events is another one. Not a lot of the travel agencies do. Some are just event organizers or meetings organizers, some are travel agencies. We do both, and that's both inbound and outbound. And then for our services, of course, we are the exclusive distributor of like Inside Vacations. We are the dealer, in other words. So we are the dealer for Inside Vacations, Contiki, Uniworld, among others, Rocky Mountaineer. And these are what I would say experiences that you cannot get if you're doing online booking, because they offer really super value-added services, not only services but actually destinations that you cannot do yourself. Like Inside Vacations, some of the itineraries, they actually have a dinner in a Michelin restaurant, which you cannot do if you do it on your own unless you queue for 6 months in advance. There are some itineraries where we have a dinner inside the Vatican. So these are the special experiences that you will not get if you do things on your own. So that's why we have our online, we have our offline, because for the more discerning travelers, we have your products.
Indeed, there was no time to slacken. Maybe there was no time even to smell the flowers, and Aileen has learned to live with that.
I start my day as usual as everyone. Look at your phone, see the messages, and see if there's anything that requires your immediate attention also. To relax, I don't think I've ever relaxed. I'm not a person who relaxes. Work is not separate from my life. It's one and the same. So I guess the other people, when they say you have to separate, I don't think so, because the values that you have will have to be for both. So again, spell the difference and do your best in whatever you do, and God will do the rest.
She also shares some golden nuggets of advice.
Never decide based on fear. Always go forward. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the way to move even in the presence of fear. As an entrepreneur, again, you cannot be too idealistic. You cannot think that everything will be perfect. It's also not a lotto that you can win na chamba lang yan. It's a lot of hard work, which, a lot of the books won't say so, because it would just tell you the, factors of success or something like that. But they all went through hard work and they went through pains and mistakes. So just be prepared.
That was Ms. Aileen Clemente, President and CEO of Rajah Travel Corporation, Business and Leisure's business mover this week.